I will show you today how to turbocharge something that you already do every single day. So this technique, what you learn in this video, it will not take up any extra time from your day, but it will add back hours of quality sleep at night so that you're waking up refreshed, feeling good. And this is all about the Russian walking hack here. I did a shorter video on this, and a lot of pristine, high class scholars, such as the Mystery Man 38, says breathing exercises are working. And having some good improvements with that to the point where he is thinking about getting off of his CPAP. All right. And then, of course, I just want to get it very clear. If you do dress up like this, it will make the exercises more effective. But kind of more on the important thing is what is this Russian walking hack and how can you do it? Hi, if you don't know me, I am Dylan Petkus. This is what I wish I knew when I was struggling with sleep apnea way back in medical school. Went from moderate to no sleep apnea per diagnosis manuals. And this has been the case for a lot of people with all these different sleep studies. If you want to look at those in depth, you can pause the video. But we gotta go. But first, it's educational purposes only. Always talk to your doctor before making any changes to your health routines. So I want to get into the principles of this because when I give you the to do, I don't want you just to be walking around all over the place, getting out of breath and like having this not work because you don't fully understand what's going on behind the scenes. So the first part is why is it Russian? Well, it's more technically Soviet, perhaps Ukrainian, but when I test all those, Russian actually works the best. People watch that one the most. So there you go. You have chosen it for me, but the man behind it is Dr. Buyeko here. Okay. Guy born in Ukraine when it was part of the USSR, died in Moscow, and has a lot of work around breathing exercises, CO2, and all of that. So that's how the Russian walking came into there. You can insert your tangential geopolitical comments down below. But bottom line, the important thing, he studied CO2 levels and breathing in many different diseases. Asthma was one of his first published ones. I went on to find a lot of other ones. And he was finding that in certain disease states, especially asthma, that was one of the bigger ones that he studied. Um, Sleep apnea wasn't too big of a thing back then. In asthma, he found that CO2 levels were actually rather low in comparison to healthy people. So if we look here, CO2 inside of the lungs much higher in healthy versus those with asthma over here, 34.5. And he believed, which I think is very true, that low CO2 would lead to smaller blood vessels inside of the lungs during asthma, and then that would make things worse, right? And to summarize decades of his work, he saw low CO2 levels in the lungs, which is a problem because in asthma, like your lungs kind of like, close up, constrict. That's why like an inhaler will kind of open up the blood vessels there. Very simplifying it here. But the thing is, high CO2 levels will actually do a very similar thing physiologically. So that's why a lot of time you figure out, well, if we do some shallow breathing, that can increase CO2 to kind of unlock the blood vessels and help things. And that's what he found. And one of the drills that he developed, we're going to do a variation of this here. All right, not this exact thing, because again, we're learning the physiology. I will give you the to do. We are sprinting there. Chill out. He had this walking exercise, like you breathe in, you breathe out, you pause in between, because that would increase the exposure to CO2 inside of your body. Not to dangerous levels, but to levels that would allow you to open up some blood vessels some more, and then also offload more oxygen into the cells of your body where it's needed. So that's asthma, okay, and some other breathing conditions like COPD. Now I want to talk about optimizing this for sleep apnea, because when we zoom in on these overly detailed diagrams here, you will actually see a lot of overlap between asthma, as shown here on the left, and then obstructive sleep apnea, OSA, on the right here. The main things that are shared, number one, inflammation. All right, that's kind of the biggest thing. And then number two is how nitric oxide is produced and used, because nitric oxide will help open blood vessels, also allow for more oxygen to travel around. So that's why there's similarities, right? Which was why we'll have like a modification of that exercise. But just to kind of summarize things, asthma, anxiety, which is another use of that walking exercise, people say that's really helpful. That helps with a overreactive airway and a more acute basis, right? Like an asthma attack. anxiety attack. Shorter time span. With obstructive sleep apnea, however, it's more of an overreactive breathing pattern and it's more chronic, just to make it very simple here. The reason this is so important is because when this breathing pattern becomes like a thing with how your brain communicates to your lungs, that will then lead you to this faster breathing pattern. And here's the rub, if you will. You have this faster inhale, then you're laying down at night. This is going to create this sort of negative section, pull those tissues back, block up your airway. Not cool, not fun. That's why you're going to snore. That's why you're going to stop breathing. So if the issue is fast breathing, right? Slow breathing is the answer here. Now, what also helps slow down breathing? Increasing CO2. All right. So that's what this is all about. So think about the exercise with him. It was like CO2 going up and down a little bit. Here is more like elevating it and trying to keep it somewhat high. Again, in a non-dangerous fashion, of course. And that's why walking is a huge part of this because there's two main ways to increase your CO2. Number one, stop breathing. All right. But then you can increase that even more by increasing your body's own natural CO2 production, which will happen anytime you are moving your muscles like you're walking or even standing. That's why I want to have an update to this exercise, a little tweak here to make it even more effective. So that's why the next thing is to go over this update, if you will, to make it really optimized and a lot easier for you. And before we get into that, a word from our sponsor, who is me. And if you do want to have a more clear-cut path to better breathing, sleep, and all that, you can check out the personalized breathing blueprint, apneareset.com/show. Use coupon code. There is no coupon code. Just go check it out. It has a custom breathing plan. Get direct support from me, calls, chat, all that good stuff, and also step-by-step holistic protocols. So instead of being in all these tips and stuff, you have a clear, steady path to better nights, better days. So walking, rushing hack. Again, talk to your doctor, local congressman, all about the combination of walking, breathing, and your health, and if it's right for you. I am actually very serious about that. They will know more about all the intricacies of you than a YouTube video will. But some principles here when doing this. Number one, walk at a normal pace. Start actually very slow with this. This is like the most humbling exercise that one can do. You might be someone who can run, you can row, you can bike, and you may feel like you just learned how to walk literally when you do this, right? So walk at a normal pace. Level ground. Cool. Now, when I go over these cadences, like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 count your steps with that. You may not have tried this in your life, but if you try to count seconds while walking, it is this weird thing that is much harder than doing the belly rub with the head pat. Uh, Scientists don't really know why or really care, to be honest. And then with this, all nasal all the time. All right. Now the levels to this, because I like to go over progressions so you can start to understand like, hey, what does this look like in application? Right. Oh, and progression is very important, a large part of what we do in the program. And think of these as milestones. The first one also may be too difficult for you. So you may need to scale it down further, right? And there's going to be in-betweens, but just know these are the milestones. So number one, 6 count in, right? You take 6 steps while breathing in through your nose, and then 3 count out. Out your nose while taking 3 steps. Cool. Cycle through that. And I don't care if you, again, if you think like you're a triathlete, that's great. You may be. That may be awesome. Start with the first one. And if any of these are too hard, you just increase the time of the inhale, decrease the time of the exhale, right? Then the next one, 5 in, 5 out. And then the third one, kind of milestone, 4 in, 8 out. When sitting, but when walking, you may start to like me a lot less. And if you don't like me, that's fine. Then like you have nowhere else to go but lower. But what you'll love is that the higher CO2 and it being more constant will really help reprogram your breathing, open up a lot of the oxygen pathways, if you will, so you're having better sleep at night. But again, I encourage you to not make this a separate drill in your life because you may just forget to do it. You want to add this as something you're already doing. Most people are already walking, and it's not even like you have a 20-minute walk in the morning every time. It could be when you walk around the house, you get groceries, you walk to your car, whatever. find yourself in one of these cadences. That's what I did when I first started out, and I mean, I walked a lot. I overdid it. Okay, don't do that. Keep it easy. But you want to add in something that allows you to just like go about your day, have this in, because the more minutes you can accumulate, then the faster people get results, better sleep, and all of that. All right. And then again, I want to emphasize once again, because when first started out, I could barely like breathe through my nose at a baseline. Any that's too difficult, just focus on walking and breathing nasally the entire time and just have your little progression steps in place there. Not be afraid to take it slow. This is seriously no joke. Because when we think about progressions, like if this is a staircase that represents all the different breathing exercises you can do, uh, walking variations are actually pretty high. They're very, very high. Like in our program, we have many of these other ones like further down here, whether it's like box breathing, etc. The walking variations are pretty high. You can still use them, but you want to use them in a very, very controlled fashion because if you overdo it, it's going to make your nervous system kind of freak out and actually prevent you from making good progress. And one more word of encouragement again, as you try this, you're going to feel like, oh, it's just straight through this progressions. It's You're gonna find a lot of ways that this doesn't work, and of course, if you have questions, put them in the comments below so I can help you understand more of these concepts, and of course, if you do wanna be on the straightest line possible towards better sleep, once again, we got our personalized breathing blueprint there for you, custom breathing protocols, literally like week by week, do this, do that. You get audio tracks, so if you want me to count for you, I do that, and you just listen along, and any little adjustments along the way, because that's what really helps smooth out that curve, you have me in your back pocket if you keep your laptop in your back pocket, your phone, whatever. And of course, a lot of focus things like whether it's myofunctional or nutrition, things of that nature, very step-by-step protocols in there for you to check out. So again, that's apneareset.com/show. Links in the description. And of course, future Dylan, if you remember, put a button here in the middle for the good people who like to click buttons on the screen because you can click that and find yourself at the personalized breathing blueprint. So that's enough for me for now. Dylan Petkus, I'll see you on the next page.